Hey there YouTube, this is the Phantom Outlaw coming at you with another review, and today, as you've probably guessed from the title, we're here to talk about the Sig Sauer P320. The P320 has been out for about 6 or 8 months now, so it's not exactly a brand new gun, but it is something that's getting a lot of attention because of its trigger system, the modularity, the conversion factor. There's just a lot of things about it that seem to really get on people's minds for a good reason. And so today we're going to talk about that a little bit. First thing we want to do, for those of you that are concerned about it, we're going to make sure we do have an empty magazine. We got an empty firearm. So this is a safe gun. Alright, so we've got that taken care of, and let's start talking about the firearm itself. As I usually do, I do have a list of items we're going to talk about, some pros, some cons, and to start off with, some basic stats. So this is the Sig P320 Compact. There is also a full-size, a carry, and a subcompact version available. It is available in 9mm, 40 caliber, 357 Sig, and most recently the 45 caliber. This one here happens to be the 9mm version. Again, this is the compact. Alright, so 9mm, the height is 5.3 inches, the length is 7.2 inches, the width is 1.4 inches, the barrel length is 3.9 inches, sight radius is 5.8 inches, the trigger pull is right around 5.5 pounds. It is a striker fire firearm, kind of unique for Sig, so some of you may not have realized that before. There's a couple different options for sights. It's advertised as coming standard with the night sights, or I believe it's called the Sig night sights. This particular one did not. This came with the the regular 3-dot sights. As you may have heard me mention in previous videos, I do prefer night sights, so I have put night sights on this. And I ended up going with the XS Big Dot Tritium night sights. We'll take a look at those here in just a moment. The weight with an empty magazine is just shy of 26 ounces. The finish on the slide is a nitron nitride finish. Magazine capacity in this configuration is 15 rounds. Now, we talked briefly about the different configurations that you can get, and I'm going to talk about the modularity and the conversion here in just a second as well. This is the compact. So this one is shorter in this regard, as well as this regard, than the full size. The carry has the shorter slide and barrel, but the full size grip, so that'll hold 17 rounds. This is the compact version. What's unique about this particular firearm, which is very similar to the Sig P250, if those of you are familiar with that, you'll see right here, that's the serial number. The serial number, however, is not attached to the frame of the firearm. It is part of the trigger assembly, or the trigger chassis. And the trigger chassis is considered the firearm. You can get different sizes of this gun, not just what you see here, what we've already talked about. If you want to get this particular one, they all come standard as a medium frame. There is also a small and a large option. You can order those extra if maybe you have really big hands or really small hands and the medium just doesn't cut it for you. The other thing you can do is you can buy, this is the compact, say I want the full size. You can buy the full size conversion, and that will come with everything except the trigger the trigger assembly, which is the serialized parts of the firearm. So you would take that trigger out of this one, drop it into the other one, and you now have a full-size gun. You can do the same thing with any of these guns and any of the calibers, which is unique. So you'll have just one serialized trigger assembly, and you can have any combination of calibers, sizes, frame sizes, grip sizes. It's a pretty unique combination. Of course, there is a price to pay for that. I believe a conversion, like say I wanted this same gun in 40 caliber. To get the conversion, I think it's just over $300. Basically, you would get everything except for the trigger assembly. You can get just the frames by themselves for less than that, but if you include the slide, which obviously would have the barrel, you're going to get over $300. So that's not cheap, but there are options out there. Now, I mentioned a moment ago that this is very similar to the P250. that Sig's had out for a number of years now. I used to have a P250 a few years ago before I was doing videos, so I do not have a video of it. I wasn't crazy about it. I bought the 9mm and then ended up finding the 40 caliber conversion at a great price, so I bought that as well. So I had both 9 and 40, again, one trigger assembly, but I could pretty quickly convert it into two different handguns depending on what I wanted to shoot. I ended up only keeping that combination for a short while. I just didn't like it, and the reason why, I'll get to the reason here in a minute. So I traded that in, paid a few extra dollars, ended up getting the M&P 40, which you have seen me do a video on before. I much preferred the ergonomics of the M&Ps as well as just the way it's shot. Now, what the difference between the 250 and the 320, as you see here, is the 250 is a double action only hammer system, and I didn't like the trigger in it. It wasn't the grips, it wasn't anything else along those lines. I just didn't like the way that it shot. So I didn't really mind getting rid of it. I lost a few dollars on it, obviously, as we all know how that works out. But I was happy with my decision. When the 320 came along, I hesitated before getting it. Like many of you, I just wasn't quite sure what to expect versus the 250. The obvious difference is the striker fire versus hammer fire. It's also an improved trigger. It's definitely crisper. It's a very, very shootable trigger. I really like this one. Now, some people may be wondering, can you take a P250 and put this trigger assembly in it, or vice versa? And I have not done that. Again, it's been a couple of years since I had the 250, but I have come across a few postings online where people have successfully done that. I can't speak to it. I don't believe Sig addresses it either, but there are those that say that they have done it with success. At any rate, we're talking today about the 320. So the differences between the 250 and the 320 are really striker versus hammer and the new trigger. So I'm pretty happy with the way this one shoots. There's no doubt about that. Let's take a look at these sights real quickly. We did talk about that these are the upgraded sights. These are night sights, the XS big dot. So it does have the big dot in the front and then the standard post in the rear for the XS. I really do prefer night sights in my pistols. I realize that there's a finite shelf life, if you will, for those, but it's 10 to 15 years depending on the manufacturer. Most seem to be around 12 years or so. So if 12 years from now or 11 and a half years from now they start to fade a little bit, it's about a $100 upgrade or replacement fee for that, or maybe less if they actually, I'm not sure how the warranty works or not, but I'm comfortable paying that for the night sights. All right, let's go over a couple of things on the 320 here. Many of you are very familiar with the Glock system. You've seen me do reviews on Glocks. You've seen other people do reviews on Glocks. There's many reviews out there because of the popularity and just the abundance of Glocks in the market. So I'm going to use that as a reference for right now. This is very much the same size gun as the Glock 19 and 9mm. If you have a 40 caliber, then obviously the Glock 23. But it's basically the same size. The slide, this dimension right here, is a little bit taller on this one. That brings up another issue which I'll address here in a minute. That's the bore axis. And this is about 2 ounces heavier. It's 0.2 ounce to 0.2 inches wider. And between that extra width and the height of the slide, I believe that's where you're going to come up with those couple extra ounces. But they're very much the same size gun. Capacity is the same too. This is a 15 round magazine. The Glock 19 has a 15 round magazine. So if any of you are wondering just how this gun compares as far as size or what to expect in that regard, and you have access to or are familiar with the Glock 19, that's pretty much what you're looking at right there. Now the Glock is a little bit shorter, not much at all. We're talking less than 1/8 of an inch there, but otherwise it's very much the same size gun. All right, we're going to talk about a couple of things that I normally do here. One of the things that I like to go over are the pros and cons. And as may be expected with a Sig Sauer handgun, the lists of pros are definitely much bigger than the cons. And really the cons are kind of nitpicky and not that big of a deal. So we're going to start off with the pros. I've already mentioned that I like the trigger system in the 320 much better than the 250. I think it has a fantastic trigger system. So that's definitely a pro. The conversion options, 9mm, 357 Sig, 40, those are options that are out there. The 45 is now available as an option for a gun as well. So there's some pluses that goes. The frame size is small, medium, and large, so you don't have to get the full conversion. You can just get the frames. Although, from what I'm understanding, I have not tried to actually purchase them. I've just seen them listed. They're relatively hard to find right now. One being that it's pretty new, and two, I guess the popularity of this particular firearm, they're just not real easy to find. But I'm sure soon enough that will change. Universal holsters, I guess, however you want to phrase it. It does come with this holster. That's part of the purchase. However, if you notice on the back, what you're going to see listed right here is this holster. It says P250. Well, it's basically the same gun as the P250. So the holster that you get, while not terribly high quality, it's certainly functionable, and it's the same holster that comes with the P250. The reason I bring that up is because if you're looking for other holsters and you find a holster that's listed for the P250, it will work for the 320. Soon enough, I'm sure there will be specific holsters for the 320, but the fact that it's identical to the 250 makes right now there's some viable options that are available out there as we speak. It's a no tool takedown. You do not have to use any tools to take this apart. Another nice thing is the way that this works out is they call it let me show it to you, I guess a little bit easier for me to talk about. You have to take the magazine out. The magazine is in. You cannot take it down. And this is what you're going to do. So we're going to take the magazine out. We'll go ahead and lock the slide back. Just rotate this lever down. Release the slide, and it comes right off. That's all there is to it, which is a nice feature. You don't have to pull the trigger, and there's no tools needed. Some people are not comfortable pulling the trigger when they're taking the gun apart. Most people don't worry about it. Some people are concerned about it. That's not a concern here. You do not have to pull the trigger. Another pro, as we've already talked about, the slide release. We got the slide release as you would expect it on one side, and it's on the other side. So you've got an ambidextrous slide release. The magazine release is located initially for a right-handed shooter, but it is also reversible, so it's an ambidextrous slide release as well. So this gun definitely sets itself up nicely if you're a left-handed shooter and you want to make some adjustments to make it fully left-handed. Some pluses for sure. All right, a couple other things we're going to talk about. There's two trigger options that you can get with this one. The standard trigger, which you see here, which is the most common. There's also a tabbed optional trigger, I guess, for law enforcement. I've not seen that one, but that is another option. The grips are very ergonomical. You can't add back straps or change back straps, but the frame itself is changeable. You can get this is a medium. You can get a large or a small as well. So while the grip is very comfortable as is, it's not quite as easy to change as, say, the Smith & Wesson M&P or the HK VP9, but it is still a very comfortable grip. Let's see, we've got that's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's about 12 pros, so I really like that. As far as the cons or the few negatives, there really aren't too many negatives on this. Briefly before, I mentioned the bore axis, and that's kind of a Sig issue. That's not, maybe issue is the wrong word. The barrel sits a little bit higher on this than, say, a Glock or a Smith & Wesson. Because of that, the barrel is probably 1/8 of an inch, maybe 1/4 of an inch higher than you would expect from some of the other ones. So you have a higher bore axis. What does that mean? Well, what that means is when you're holding the gun, the bore is here instead of, say, down here. And it's really tough. Let's see if I can show this on the camera. When you're holding it, you want to have the bore as close and parallel to your arm as possible. That's why you want to get a higher grip. You can do that with the beaver tail backstrap. But the higher bore axis is not a problem with this gun whatsoever. It shoots fine. There's maybe some people will really nitpick about that, but I didn't see it as a problem. But that is something that some people are concerned with. It is 2 ounces heavier than the Glock 19. The Glock 19 seems to be maybe not the gun, but certainly a very popular gun that people will compare other firearms to, again, because of the number of them that are out there. So the fact you're talking about 2 ounces in weight, to many people that's insignificant. To many others, every ounce counts. So that extra 2 ounces definitely should count as a con or perhaps potential negative, but not a deal breaker by any stretch. And then the last con that I have is the cost for the conversions. Again, you're spending over $300 to get a full conversion, depending on what route you want to go. So that can be pretty pricey. here in the United States, that may not be all that concerning, but say you're in another country where you're limited to a certain number of firearms per household. You could have one trigger assembly, which is the firearm, that counts as the firearm, and 3 or 4 conversions. So you would have, 3, 4, maybe 5 different firearms, but only counting as one because of the trigger assembly. So that's why that's a nice plus in some regards. But you're spending a fair amount of money for that. Here, you're going to spend over $300 for the full conversion. You throw another $200 in or so, $250, and you get a whole complete other firearm. Now, I'm not saying $200 or $250 is nothing. Certainly, it's a fair amount of money. Just making sure people are aware of how that fits and what that would apply to. Again, here in the United States, we don't have that problem. Other parts of the world, that may be a big concern. So as we talk about the pros and cons, definitely the pros outweigh the cons by a big margin. I very much enjoyed this gun. It's a fun gun to shoot. It's an accurate gun to shoot. With the night sights on it, for me, it's a great choice. I would not hesitate to carry this. Because of how thick it is, it's not as a good or appealing option for an inside the waistband carry. As I mentioned before, I do have an M&P shield for that, but it definitely would be a good option for an outside the waistband or any other option like that. You may notice on the slide as you look at this right here, that's where it's telling you that this is a medium. You will also see the option for large or small. It's showing compact, so you can see if you're not sure which one you've got, just take a look at it right there on the frame. It's real easy to find. So in summary, great gun, very comfortable gun to shoot, to hold, accuracy, fantastic with it. The pluses far outweigh any really nitpicky minuses that are involved with it. Very comfortable gun, very good choice for a duty gun. You'll see lots of people comment on it as a duty gun. I believe that was one of the main reasons for the design of it. The fact that it is a striker fire gun, many people are more comfortable with the consistency of a striker fire versus double action, single action, whatever the case may be with that. Each person will have your own preference on that. I prefer strikers myself, but I do own and shoot the double action and single action with the hammer fire, so it doesn't bother me. I just prefer the strikers. You'll each have your own opinions on that. So that's what we've got going on here. This is the Sig P320. Great gun, relatively new, getting a lot of good press. If you're looking for a gun in this size, well, in any size, I guess this particular one would be the compact size, I would definitely suggest give it some consideration. I would think you can find it at many of your local ranges if you have that option for a rental. Get some trigger time on it, see what you think on it, give it some consideration. It does have a rail, so you can still attach your flashlights or your lasers to it. Great option, no doubt about that. As far as aftermarket options, that's only going to get better as the gun's only been out for 6 or 8 months now. So I think that would definitely be some pluses down the road. That's what we've got going on here with the Sig P320. If you've got any questions, please drop me a line and I'll get back as quickly as I can. I hope you're all doing well. Take care. Have a great day.